From the Opubco studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Mike Sherman, standing in for a vacationing Barry Trammell. It's time for our weekly 5 and 5 segment. 5 topics, a minute each. That means 5 minutes. Let's get right to it. Mike, what about this question? Has Oklahoma City turned on one of its own, one of its beloved, Blake Griffin?
You were there last night. I was watching on television. I didn't really get that sense when the Clippers played in Oklahoma City on Wednesday night. The Clippers won. I didn't hear what I heard last year, and I wrote about this. I blogged. I said Oklahoma City should be ashamed of itself for booing Blake Griffin. Barry disagreed with me vehemently, but the boos have turned down. Local televisions, you wrote about this for Wednesday's paper. Is he a villain? Is the NBA sort of casting him as a villain? I felt like the local broadcasters had. Bad. And I really feel like somebody's told them, hey, turn it down a bit, guys. They've been much more conciliatory towards Blake. Listen, he's the same Blake who played at OCS, who talked smack when he dunked on Amber Pocasset. I know because my nephew played for Amber Pocasset. This is the same kid. He hasn't changed. He comes from good parents. I don't understand the whole idea, and fortunately, it doesn't feel like everybody's against him either.
I don't think so either. He got a really nice ovation in the starting lineups. It wasn't obviously as loud as anything you heard for the Thunder, but it was a pretty nice ovation. Now, people weren't cheering for him when he dunked on Serge Ibaka in the second half. Yeah, it was an amazing dunk. But I tell you what, people appreciate the fact that here's a guy from Oklahoma City, went to OU, and he's representing himself, his home state, well. I mean, he's not a guy that gets into trouble. If the worst you can say about him is he stares down people and occasionally yells at the ref, that's not so bad, is it?
That was a good Scott Brooks line, by the way. The stare down from the commercial.
Yeah, that's good. All right, how about this one, Mike? Is there still a race for the number 1 seed in the West? Are we talking about something that's over and done with here?
I wonder if what's over and done with is the San Antonio Spurs' interest in winning the West. First of all, they start benching guys and did not play, coach's decision, old. Then they do it 3 times. And then last night, they got blown out at home by the Lakers with those 3 old guys playing. This is a head scratcher. The Thunder says they don't look at the standings. They're not, Scott Brooks is not in. Does anybody want to win the number 1 seed? Maybe there'll be this 2-game gap at the end where the Spurs haven't played as many games and they say, never mind. We're done. We're good here.
I don't know. At this point, would that surprise anybody?
There's a race. I think we may be the only ones interested in it.
I get the feeling the Thunder's not interested. And last night against I have to say, that Wednesday night loss that the Spurs had against the Lakers, that makes you wonder a little bit. I still think the Thunder can win this thing. They had such a great opportunity, though, against the Clippers, Mike. I mean, they did not play well. Defensively did not play well. Offensively did not hit shots that they normally hit. And yet they almost win that game on a night when they really could have gained some big traction. But at this point, I mean, it just feels like it's still very much in flux. Man, if they could have grabbed a hold of it there, that would have been a huge step.
James Harden, from reading your story, didn't sound like he was all that interested in grabbing hold. Oh, go ahead and take it.
All that the top seed in the West has done is win 16 of the Western Conference Finals over the years. It seems like a big deal to me. All right, what about this one, Sherm? Scandal with the longer shelf life. Bobby Petrino or Ozzie Guillen? Ooh, it was a scandal-filled early part of the week for sure.
Oh, yeah, and the question changed. On Tuesday morning, it was sort of like, who's going to lose his job? Which one? But here's the issue with it, and I find this interesting. We'll know depending on what they find in the phone records. Those folks in Arkansas, they can go through cell phone records with the best of them. Of course, we've had people on our staff who did that too. Kelvin Sampson might remember that. But so they're going through Bobby Petrino's phone records and they're finding out all these calls before big games, right after the police reports. This is going to be interesting. But I think Ozzie Guillen's the one because he still got his job, and this is hanging over his head right there in South Florida and Little Havana with a ballpark paid for by the taxpayers, many of whom fled Castro in order to build a better life here. I think this is still hanging over Ozzie. I think everything that Ozzie does bad gets attached to this. I think he's going to have to deal with that scandal a lot longer than Petrino.
Sure, I think you're right. I think that does hang over Ozzie Guillen. But I tell you what, I think for as far as consumers go, those of us in the media, those of you out there who are paying attention, I think this Bobby Petrino thing is going to have a long shelf life because it's just so scintillating, the details. I mean, it's soap opera-like. We found out in some of those phone records that the Arkansas media got a hold of, He called this gal that he is now termed his mistress, like first thing in the morning, every morning of Alabama week. I mean, 70 plus text messages a day some days. I mean, this is crazy stuff, folks.
But she might have been breaking down film for him or something. Maybe he just wanted to see how the kicking game was handled by Alabama.
I'm not sure that's right. All right, what about this one? Hey, here's a great question. Favorite halftime act? Mike, obviously, this comes from my experience Wednesday night. Red Panda did the Thunder game. The gal with the unicycle and the bowls on her leg. It was amazing.
The bowl flipper. Yeah. Listen, I'm not taking Red Panda. That's yours. In fact, I remember a couple times when you guys showed up with matching outfits or very similar outfits for the Thunder game. Jenny was sort of in her kimono-like stage. It was very nice. And I teased her about that. Bowl flipper. Can you do that? Listen, I can't even carry a bowl of cereal from the kitchen to the kitchen table, one bowl, without spilling something, so I admire it, but I'm not taking hers. She loves that one. I'm going with the Amazing Christopher. Listen, the Amazing Christopher, that's the dude with the Village People. I know it's a hack. I know he never leaves the ground. He doesn't ride a unicycle, but that guy's got staying power. He looks about 60 years old. He looks like Jack LaLanne. He's structured and built and all that. And then I love watching him walk through the corridors behind the Chesapeake Energy Arena, and you see this guy with the sticks walking by. Hey guys, I love your concerts. How's it going? The Amazing Christopher is one of my favorites. By the way, ESPN's done this deal, 7 minutes of wow, really cool about all the NBA, and they feature Red Panda.
Well, Red Panda's great. I love her. Every time I see her, and I swear I've seen her at least 20 times at college games and pro games, I'll sit and watch every time. If I've got something I need to do at halftime, write a blog, write a column, it doesn't get done when she's there. I watch her. I tell you what, the other one that's like is Quick Change. The people with the costumes that go from one dress to another, one outfit to another. I swear, I've watched that at least a dozen times. I have no idea how either of them work. It's amazing stuff.
You got to be an athlete to change clothes quickly.
That's right. All right, lastly, what about this one? Ooh, let's go to the gridiron. Reason to watch the OU spring games. Is there a reason to watch, Mike?
I think Landry Jones is must-see TV, must-see anything. I still can't get this sort of disconnect between a guy who's going to go down as the leading statistical leader in many OU passing categories and the public's about him. He's their guy. He's played in more spring games now, I think, than almost anybody in OU history, and we want to find out. Can he get the same sort of relationship with Kenny Stills that he had with Ryan Broyles? What's he look like? What did the quarterback guru out on the West Coast do for him? Of course it's Landry Jones. This next season is about Landry Jones. He's the reason to watch.
I think a lot of people will be watching Landry Jones. I think they're also going to be watching Trey Matoyer, the new wide receiver. He was ineligible to come to OU last year, spent a year at military school. He's been all the talk of the spring. Everybody raving about him. Of course, we've heard that before. Guys get raved about in the spring. So whether that comes through or not, I don't know. But a couple years ago, Kenny Stills was the rave of the spring. And that worked out pretty well for the Sooners. I think people are going to be watching this offense. How good are they? What can they do? I think a lot of people will be paying attention to that.
I didn't take Trey because I worried about botching the pronunciation of his last name like Bob Stoops does. You got it.
All right. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahomans.